Hey guys. So there are many different types of brain training programs out there to achieve all sorts of things. It could be, behavioral, it could be neurological conditions that you're working to fix. It's phobias, it's behavioral, it's so many different things. But we hear a lot of talk about it in the world of long COVID recovery and chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME recovery. And people who are finding success with brain training programs are finding it or are using these programs or these strategies to change their thought patterns and change the way they react, their automatic thinking, their automatic sort of trigger pathways of I see this, I think this, I do that, and trying to rewire that in a new, more helpful direction. So in this video, I'm going to share one specific brain training strategy for you to consider trying. And to help you understand how this strategy works or how this approach in general works, one analogy I find really helpful is to think of your brain as a hill of sand. And this hill of sand has marbles going down it all day long. And those marbles are your thoughts, your behaviors, just the stuff you're kind of doing almost on autopilot every single day. So most of these marbles have well-made grooves and paths that they go down quite easily. That tip it down and it goes down that sequence, and that's what's going to happen every time that marble is put in motion. So what we're doing with a brain training strategy like this one is we are intercepting that marble from going down that path that it goes down every single time, and we are now pushing that marble down a new path. And in the beginning, it's going to be challenging for that marble to get down that path. You're pushing it through the sand. There is no path. It's just a hill of sand. You're making the path, and you're going to keep pushing that marble down that same new path over and over and over again. And until there is a really I shouldn't keep doing this in front of my face. I feel like that's distracting. I'm trying to picture it in my brain. But this hill of sand that we'll put down here, the more you push it down, the more that new pathway is going to become, a nice, well-made little road and groove for that marble to go down. And in time, that other pathway that it used to go down is just going to get blown over with sand and filled in because it's not used. So it's a nice way to think about, because when we talk about building new neural pathways in the brain, that can sound very intimidating and impossible to do. But it really is just about all these things in our brain that are sort of on autopilot, changing what that autopilot sequence looks like. In the beginning, it's going to be quite a bit of work because those ingrained pathways are there, but we can do it with repetition, 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 and we can change what triggers us, what different things make us think, feel, and how that ultimately makes us behave. And with long COVID and ME/CFS recovery, so many people share that a big part of their journey, a big piece of that recovery puzzle, is ultimately changing your personality. And our personality is just a combination of different automated thought processes, a way that we automatically behave in a variety of situations. So when I talk to people like Alex Howard from the Optimum Health Clinic, he talks about this a lot. He did in his interview with me, I can link here, and in his book, Decode Your Fatigue. But our personalities, many of us have personalities and personality traits that, although they may be helpful in other areas of our lives, are not so conducive to long-term health. Personalities like overachievers, we hear a lot, the type A personalities, the perfectionists, which has a lot of self-criticism and a lot of self-negative talk involved, and just keeping your body in a really state of sort of panic and fear all of the time. But it doesn't have to look like this. You might not be a type A or an overachiever, but maybe you are a really big caregiver. Maybe you put everybody else's needs quite often before your own. So that continual pattern in your brain, that marble in that sand of take care of someone else before you take care of yourself over many months or years, ultimately, obviously is going to pay a toll on you personally. Many other people have talked about this. I interviewed neuroplasticity expert Ashok Gupta. He created the Gupta program. He talked about this as well. I've had like Miguel Batista and Junior on with their Thriver program, and they talk about this a lot, and they've seen it in their own recovery experience. I've had Jason McTiernan on. He has a recovery program, and he himself recovered from severe ME/CFS, and all of these things. And not just from people running programs, but from the countless interviews I've done with people who have recovered, talking about how, I had to change my personality. I had to learn how to have more self-compassion. My ego had to die. I had to, change the way I approached my life. And this doesn't just happen. I used to think I could just decide to be a different person and like, oh, I get it now. You're right. It doesn't make sense to live your life that way. I'm going to live it a different way, but you need tools. So here's one for you to consider. So brain training strategies, if you happen to be new to them, are typically a sentence or a series of sort of ways of thinking about your current situation, your current thought, that current moment, and then deciding on a new path. So they can sound deceptively simple when you first hear about them, but they can be really powerful and have really transformative effects on your life. So this one, and I'm going to explain in detail in a minute exactly how you use it, but it is a sentence that you are going to use as many times a day to redirect old ways of doing things into new ways of doing things, essentially to rewire your personality. So rewire your brain to change the expression of your personality. And that sentence is, I'm letting go of who I was to make space for who I'm becoming. So I'm letting go of who I was to make space for who I'm becoming. And you're going to need to write this down, put it on Post-it notes, put it on your laptop, put it as a screensaver on your phone. Just have it as many places as you can because you need to remember to do it and you need to remember what the sentence is. So once you've got those reminders up, you're going to start using it in situations where you recognize like there's a little something in your gut, a little spidey sense somewhere telling you like, wait, this feels like one of these moments where my usual behavior is not serving me. And I think I need to look at changing how I approach these thoughts, these situations, these behaviors. So for example, let's say you are really exhausted, like you're feeling beat, your body is screaming at you that it's tired, but your go-to marble path is to push through. You're like, no, these situations come, whether it's I still have work to do, the kitchen is a mess, I don't want to lay down before cleaning it up, I made plans with a friend, I don't want to bail and seem like a flake, I still have more work to do, I can't quit, I have to get this done today or else the world's going to end. That's one of mine. Whatever it is, but you are exhausted, you are tired, your body is telling you to rest, but in your brain, your automatic pathway is to ignore that message and push through and do it anyways. So in this moment, you would pause, and a lot of brain training activities and a lot of different programs I've come to learn have some sort of component of interrupting that thought. A lot of them will do something like just to say stop and even do a hand gesture and just in that moment go stop. But to not do it harshly, to not do it critically, it's a very gentle, kind, just interrupt of that thought moment, that sort of spiral that you're having, just stop. And then you say to yourself, I'm letting go of who I was to make space for who I'm becoming. And you'll probably have to say this a few times. And an important part of this is as you're saying it, is to be calm in the moment and to visualize what that looks like and to think, I'm letting go of what was. So even just picturing in your mind that backward, like that's not who I am anymore. That's an old pathway. That's the old path that used to happen. To make space for who I'm becoming and then picturing the forward, the new path. And while you're picturing the backwards path and the forwards path, you're also visualizing the thoughts and the behaviors that go along with that. So as you say to yourself, I'm letting go of who I was, you're visualizing pushing through, exhausted, doing the thing, whatever it is, even though your body is screaming at you to rest. And then, as you say, to make space for who I'm becoming, you picture yourself listening to your body, realizing that the world won't end if you rest, and getting some rest. It can be really interesting in those moments, particularly with the exhaustion, because I know that even pre-illness, many of us struggled with this. And our bodies are giving us one clear message that they're yelling at us, screaming at us. There's no confusion. You're not in that moment like, what is my body saying? I'm not sure. Is it hot? Is it hungry? No, it's just screaming at you. I'm freaking tired. We need rest. It's like, it shouldn't be confusing in those moments to know what to do. It's just the habit of ignoring that for so long. It takes time to change that habit, to do the rewiring, and to start to listen to your body in those moments and behave differently. There are so many examples. Anytime you feel yourself behaving, thinking, reacting in a way that you recognize is not serving you, pull out this sentence. Let's say you are currently facing like ME/CFS or Long COVID, and you're having one of those days with some symptom flares and you're not feeling well, and you start to panic, and you see this you can see your brain going down this road of, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get better. How long is this going to last? Am I dying? This feels terrible. I'm not going to be able to get the laundry done today. It hasn't been done in 2 weeks. And you just start freaking out. So this would be another moment to just, if you want to use the stop, I'm letting go of who I was, picturing that old path, picturing you freaking out about symptoms and thinking that they are terrifying things that are just mean that the world is over for you. To make space for the person that I am becoming. And then you picture this person that accepts symptoms for just that, recognizes that they're not harming you, recognizes that they're a normal and inevitable part of health recovery, because it's never linear, it's always a bit jagged. So these moments, these days are inevitable, and you are becoming that person that is more at peace with them, and that recognizes that when you are more at peace with them, they actually tend to pass more quickly, because when you're not in that heightened state of stress and fear and panic, your body's just in a better state to recover, and then they dissipate. The examples are endless, though. I could go on and on. I'll just give you a couple more. Just think about as many times during the day where you feel yourself reacting in a way that isn't helpful. Let's say you're online and someone says something mean to you, or it's not even directed at you, but someone stranger online says something that upsets you. And your response is to want to just get really upset and take it really personally, and then maybe even get in there and start arguing with this person on the internet, which never ever ends well. Nothing good comes from that. I promise you. I know it's tempting. Sometimes I'm tempted. Some things people say to me, trust me, I get a lot. So most of the time I'm like, nope. But every once in a while I'm like, I've got such a good retort for you. No good will come from it. So if you're in this moment, and I use this, I think it's very powerful. I find it to be very powerful, which is why I'm sharing it, is that sentence. I'm letting go of who I was, that person who got all worked up and gave strangers on the internet the power to determine how I feel in this moment, to make space for the person who I am becoming, the person who doesn't give away my power so easily, the person who knows that getting sucked in and arguing with strangers on the internet is not going to get me anywhere. Use it when you're feeling guilty about resting. Use it when you're stressing about doctor's appointments, and maybe you're going into an appointment and you're like, I hope I explain myself properly, and what are they going to think, and are they going to judge me for this, and blah, 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 blah. Letting go of who I was, that person who thought all those things, and making space for this person who I am becoming. Person who knows I won't get everything right, who knows I can't control how this person responds, who knows that this doctor is just a consultant in my life and not the dictator of my future, and who can handle these things calmly and not let them destroy my day. Or you put out a video that isn't perfect. For me, sometimes it's just putting out a YouTube video that I worked really hard on, and then I watch the end result and I'm so critical, and I'm like, didn't turn out how I wanted, but I'm working on it. The old me, letting go of who I was, expected everything I did to be perfect for some insane reason and got really stressed out when it wasn't, and was really hard on myself, to make space for that person who I'm becoming, who is someone who just does their best, who comes at it with good intentions, who hopes to connect with people like yourself and put something good out into the world that maybe helps somebody, maybe not. Some of it's not going to help anybody, but all I can do is try. And this person I'm becoming is more and more at peace with that. If you enjoyed this video, if brain training is something that interests you or resonates for you or something that you've found success with, I'm going to link one on the screen here that I did recently talking about some of the reasons the brain training sometimes doesn't work for some people, and then some of the things you can do in those situations to set yourself up to have the potential to be more successful. And I'd love to know in the comments, have you tried brain training? What has worked? What strategies have worked for you? What has been your experience? And what other topics would you like to hear about? I am here to serve you, so please tell me what will be helpful for you. If you found value in this video, I invite you to consider subscribing, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of this video, and as always, I hope to see you in this next one.